Hello everyone, in today's tutorial we are going to learn how to build a simple ANN model. I have downloaded the heart disease dataset from kaggle.com whose link I will be providing in the description below. Let's get started by importing the Pandas library. Now if this doesn't work for you, then you will have to pip install Pandas before you can import it. Once Pandas has been imported, you can use the read CSV function to read in the dataset. Let's take a look at our dataset. Our dataset consists of 14 columns, in which 13 are independent columns and 1 is the target or dependent column. Basically, we are trying to predict the target value by the 13 other column values. Let's split the data into independent and dependent part. X will contain the independent values and Y will contain the dependent or the target value. Now, as this dataset is very simple, we don't have to do any pre-processing for it. In general, you'll have to do pre-processing like filling the null values, performing standard scaling, and removing the unwanted columns. But as we are only learning how to build an ANN model, all this has been skipped. Now, once the data has been split into independent and dependent part, let's split it into training and testing part. For that, we'll require another library called sklearn. For importing train test split from model selection, you will have to pip install sklearn. One important point to remember that previously it was known as sklearn.cross-validation we used to import train test split, but now the name has been changed to model selection. So we'll do from sklearn.model selection import train test split. After this has been imported, we will split the data into two parts, training and testing. The test size will split the data in as 20% as testing data and 80% for training data. Let's take a look at our training data. The training data consists of 242 rows and 13 columns. Now let's get started and make the ANN. Before we can do that, we'll have to install two modules, that is TensorFlow and Keras. We have to pip install TensorFlow because Keras uses TensorFlow backend as default. Once you have pip installed TensorFlow, we'll have to pip install Keras so that we can import models such as sequential and dense. The sequential model of Keras is used to make sequential layered model, and the dense model is used for adding layers in the sequential model. So let's initialize our model as sequential, that means sequence of layers. Now let's add our first hidden layer and the input layer. One important point to remember is that one layer adds the input and as well as the first hidden layer. The input dim suggests the number of neurons to be present in the input layer, and it is equal to the number of values in number of columns in the X train. The activation function is relu. As you can recall from the activation function tutorial that relu is used in the hidden layers. Units is equal to 7 is there are 7 neurons in the hidden layer. Now there is no hard and fast rule to have 7 number of neurons in the hidden layer. But it is a general practice of having the number of neurons in the hidden layers equal to the number of inputs plus the number of output divided by 2. So in our case it is 13 plus 1 by 2, that is 14. 14 by 2, that is 7. So let's add our first layer. Let's add in another hidden layer with 7 neurons and activation function as relu. As you can see, there is no input dim as this is a second hidden layer. Now let's add our final output layer with just one neuron which will predict either 0 or 1. As our classification is binary, we have only one neuron at the output layer, but if there are multiple classes, then you will have to have multiple neurons. Activation function is sigmoid in case of binary classification, but in case of multiple classification, it has to be changed to softmax. Softmax and sigmoid are same functions, just that softmax gives multiple classes. Let's compile our model by Adam Optimizer, which will initialize the weights of our model. Loss is binary cross entropy, that is the loss function which will help our model learn. Now, as our model is classifying the output as binary value, that is 0 or 1, it is binary. We have used the cost function to be binary cross entropy. But if you have multiple classes in your output, then you'll have to change it to categorical cross entropy. Let's compile our model. We can ignore this warning. Now, once our model have been compiled, let's train it. For training, we use the fit function, which has xtrain, ytrain, batch size, that is, after how many predictions will the value be backpropagated, and epochs is the number of times the training will take place. So now this might take time depending on how fast your computer is. My computer is pretty fast, so it'll happen within a minute. Once this is done, we will predict our values. As you can see, we get an 80% accuracy on our training data. Now let's predict on the testing data which the computer doesn't know. For that we use the predict function. ypred is equal to model.predict of xtest will give the probability of the outputs being 0 or 1. But we do not want the probability of the outputs. We want the output itself, that is 0 or 1. So whichever probability is greater than 0.5, we'll assign that value to ypred. Now it's time to see the accuracy on the testing data. For that, we import the confusion matrix from the sklearn library. Let's print the confusion matrix of the y test to the y predicted values. As we can see that there are 19 values were predicted as 0 when the answer was actually 0, and 10 times it was predicted 1 when the answer was 0. 5 times the answer was predicted as 0 when the answer was 1, and 27 times the correct answer 1 was predicted. So the accuracy of this model will be the correct prediction, that is 27 plus 19 divided by the total number of predictions, that is 19 plus 10 plus 5 plus 27. So our model gives an accuracy of 75% on testing data, which is very good as we have not done any pre-processing and made a very simple ANN model. That's all for this tutorial and this ANN series. I hope you like the concept of ANN. I will soon be coming up with CNN tutorials as well. Hope you all are excited for that. Thank you. Like and share the video, subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates.